Welcome to the Craig Kenneth Show. I am your host, Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm your co-host, Coach Victoria.
And today we're going to be talking with a woman that is struggling with her relationship because their needs are not being met. But it's complicated. And as we know, relationships can be complicated when we have issues with intimacy. Sometimes we have health issues, and sometimes people just want different amounts of closeness than their partners do. So trying to make that work can be a real struggle, especially if a lot of the other aspects of the relationship are good.
Right.
So today we have a caller, Naomi, and she is in her mid-20s, and she's going to be sharing what's going on. Naomi, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Welcome to the show. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be on it.
So can you talk to us a little bit about what's going on?
Yeah, I've been with my girlfriend in a same-sex relationship for over 2 years now.
Okay.
However, we've been struggling with intimacy in our relationship for over a year of it. It's a bit tough. It's not an easy yes or no to our relationship. I'm kind of in the middle right now between staying or going. I think it's just because I know my needs aren't being met, but it's due to health issues she's experiencing. So I do feel guilty leaving for that reason.
Okay, sure. I think a lot of people would feel stuck and confused on that kind of situation because if you care about somebody, um, you don't want to just leave them if they're having a health issue, that's for sure.
Right. And that's not anything that anybody chooses, right? Sometimes things just happen unexpectedly and we have to kind of be creative, but also it does make us ask a lot of questions and puts us in a place where we got to make some decisions.
Can you start from the beginning of the relationship a little bit and talk to us about like that first year?
Yeah, the first year was good. We didn't live together at the time,
Okay.
and I found I don't know how many details I can go into. I guess if you're listening and have kids, maybe don't play this out loud. Um, I think we used to have like a frequency of maybe like 4 times a month, 5 times a month, but
Okay.
I think once we moved in together, things changed. And I think also her injury got worse. She's had
Okay.
a physical injury for about 10 years, but it's just been getting worse.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay. So the injury has gotten progressively worse over time, and what has she done or not done to get that looked at or dealt with to improve her issues? Because sometimes you find a partner who's just unwilling, and then it's like you get angry because they won't make an effort.
Yeah, that's a tough question. I feel like in some ways she's really trying. She is going to like a physiotherapist to help with her neck. Um,
Okay.
however, and we do have couples therapy. So I do appreciate her showing up. Um, I would say she's more on the avoidant side, so I appreciate her coming to that. It's hard for her to open up. Um, however, finding a solution and even like meeting each other halfway, that's been a battle for sure.
Okay. So how long was it before you guys moved in together?
It was about a year.
Okay. And so leading up to that point, you were relatively happy. It was happening at a frequency that you both were pretty pleased?
I would say so.
Okay. All right. So other than the intimacy issues, how was the relationship before moving in together?
I think that after watching your channel for so many years, I was really stern on my deal breakers.
Okay.
So I would always like date and ask people as soon as I could like my deal breakers, and she met all of them at the time. Um, yeah, intimacy wasn't even an issue when we first met.
Okay. All right. And the other parts of the relationship was good, like you trusted each other, you were communicating well.
Yeah, I would say we had a very healthy relationship. I knew she had my best interests at heart, and so did I, and we had a good, strong, healthy communication going on.
I'm also curious what she's expressed to you about how she feels about the medical issues and the intimacy, because sometimes you can find a partner who doesn't want to bring it up at all. You can find a partner who doesn't want to initiate any kind of sexual interaction because they know that it hurts them. It can bring about a lot of guilt in that person that they're unable to meet their partner's needs. So how do you think that she's expressed how she's felt about it?
Um, yeah, that's a big question. I just had to reflect for a second here. So on her side of things, I think when she's able to, she does initiate. However, right now it's mostly her initiating. I've kind of stepped back because there's been so many times it just hasn't been a good time that I just put the ball in her court kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, she's told me that she want to do it more often, but it's hard for her. Like when she's feeling pain, it's hard for her to be in a mood to be sexually like open.
Sure.
Because her mind is just kind of focused on pain, and it's hard for her to be present within her body when all of that she's feeling in her body is pain.
I'm curious, do you see her often talking about this pain, or is she only bringing it up when you're asking for intimacy?
It's almost every day.
Okay.
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes some people will say, "Oh, this thing is bothering me. I have a headache," is the notorious one you've
Mhm.
heard for years. I have a headache.
Mhm.
You heard the joke about the guy who gives his wife a Tylenol one time, and she goes, "I don't have a headache," and he's like, "Okay."
Oh no. But it could be, I see what you're saying. It could be used as an excuse
Yeah.
or yeah.
Oh, okay. I see
Um,
what you mean. Yeah.
but it sounds like this is a real, medical issue that she's talked to doctors about and she has been experiencing. And I mean, whether it's a headache, whether it's somebody who doesn't want to, intimacy is one of those things that you never want to force on a partner. And that's what can be tough in a relationship is because it sounds like both of you want it, but there's some physical limitations to this. Um, I want to ask, how has this affected the way the two of you are affectionate with each other?
One thing we're trying to work on is for me to be more present in other forms of physical affection.
Mhm.
I find it's really hard for me to open up, like to even cuddle or like kiss or anything because I just feel physically like rejected often. And that's really tough.
Do you ever feel angry?
I do. Yeah, I do often, and that's been tough to deal with as well. I know
Tough to
it's not
get,
fully her fault.
it's tough to get close to somebody when you're angry at them.
Now, I have another question, and it might be a bit more on the personal side, but sometimes when we're in a relationship with somebody who has medical issues interfering with intimacy, or it could be maybe some kind of disability, something that makes intimacy look a little bit different. Have the two of you explored different avenues to reach the finish line? And the finish line being just pleasure in general, not necessarily climax, but just the enjoyment in that erotic space. I'll put it like that.
I've brought up that topic to my girlfriend before. I've actually read the book by Susan Johnson, Hold Me Tight. I think Margaret has mentioned that. Rest in peace to Margaret. She's always with us.
We keep
Um,
her here too.
oh yeah, she's on your cup.
She's on my mug.
I love that. I think Craig's still selling that if you guys want to get
I do have it.
it.
I have so
Um,
many in my pantry. I probably have close to 20 Margaret mugs of different colors.
just never gonna get rid of her. She's always
No.
there. Yeah, I've mentioned it to her. I think I've even mentioned ways that won't strain her neck. This is kind of where I struggle. She does mention like her pain gets in like the mood. And because of that, it makes it hard for her to like want to be there, even in other ways.
Gotcha. I see. So it's one of those things where it sounds like part of her pain is chronic. So it's less of, it could be exacerbated by intimacy, but it could be underlying there, preventing intimacy from happening in the first place. Is
I
that,
think so.
yeah.
I
Really
think my
tough.
anger, sorry, I think my anger comes from that, what I
Mm,
wanted to add.
Tell us more about that.
I have I have an easier time understanding when it's something physical, like if there's a specific part of her neck she doesn't want to like use or move, but when it's more emotional, I struggle with that. I think it's because my perspective is, like even if I'm not always in the mood, I'm always in the mood to make my partner happy
mm,
and to be intimate with them. And if my partner was really struggling with their needs, I think I would kind of myself have the attitude of, okay, like I'm going to compromise and make that work.
Sure.
yeah. I could see that this is a layered issue. On on her end too, having an issue like that can be closely tied, along with a lot of chronic medical issues, can be closely tied with anxiety and depression too.
Hmm.
So I just want to chime in that it sounds like there could be many different things going on. So you bringing up the emotional side, I hear what you're saying. She might not be emotionally, willing to go there and also be struggling with other, mental health, mood, emotional related things too.
I do have a question for you. How receptive is she to talking about the things like the sex and the sexual struggles that you're having? Does she get agitated? Does she get irritated when you bring it up? Or is she understanding and compassionate or empathetic?
I think it really depends on our approach. Like if I'm experiencing anger, I've tried not to talk about it in those moments, but when I do, it kind of causes a back and forth of irritation. But when I approach her from a calm place, one thing I like about her is sometimes she shuts down, but she always communicates. Like, hey, can we come back to this at this time? And we
Okay.
always do talk about it.
Okay. One of the other things you have to consider is uh will the medical issue change, get worse, get better?
Mhm.
And how happy or unhappy will you be if those things change one way or the other?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I've definitely thought about that. One thing I struggle with in terms of that is, when you're with a partner for a long time, you think about like marriage. And I think in marriage it's supposed to be for like in health or in illness. Um, so I really struggle with that. I just feel like maybe it's a mistake to leave someone for an illness or an injury.
Sure. What about the prognosis for her physical health? Is there any chances this is going to get better? Is it looking like it's just going to get progressively worse with age? Because I'm sure she's relatively young, right?
Yeah, we're both 25 and 26, so we're young. Um, I know that she's getting the help she can physically, like she's going to physio and getting that help. So I'm hopeful in her trying. However, doctors haven't been able to find the cause of her pain.
Mhm. Yeah, that's frustrating,
Mhm.
right? Man, I can't even imagine how frustrated she would be
Yeah.
to be going to doctors and they're not being able to tell you what's wrong.
Right. And our sexual expression, the way we connect with our own sexuality can be a part of an identity, part of our identity.
Yeah.
And so I imagine that for her, this is difficult as well. How much has she opened up to you about how this is impacting her? And what has she said in regards to that?
I think that she'll tell me she's in pain when she is, and that she wants a massage or something. Emotionally, she'll tell me that it's really hard for her to like not give up on healthcare professionals just because it's been 10 years.
Hmm.
So it's a
A
long
long time.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
I
think
can't, I just don't understand how they're not finding anything with CAT scans or MRIs or something, right? With all the technology,
Mhm.
like they're not seeing any kind of fracture or, some pinched nerve,
Right.
something.
And I know in terms of getting pain relief, that can also be a slippery slope in some cases on, what's prescribed. It's not,
Yeah.
I'm no psychiatrist or I'm no prescriber here, but I know that can be a difficult decision too, just in terms of pain management.
yeah, and it's unfortunate. It takes over more than just our intimacy. Her favorite hobby is to go on hikes because we live
Mhm.
near mountains and she can't really do that all the time because of her neck. Also work can be really hard for her.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's impacting all areas of her life.
Mhm.
This isn't just about the intimacy. This is a major component of the relationship. It's tough because you have your own set of needs
Mhm.
and desires, and you have a right to feel those things and want those things for yourself. And if you choose to be in an exclusive relationship, most people consider that exclusivity to be, who you're going to be physically intimate with or emotionally intimate with. So choosing to stay in that kind of dynamic is ultimately going to be you're the one that's going to be sacrificing, right? She's not really having to sacrifice here.
Well, in terms of, you know, it sounds like she herself is.
For the relationship, I mean. Like
Mhm.
her partner, what is her partner really having to sacrifice for her? I know she's struggling with her
Mhm.
health. I just mean that it's Naomi who's having to give up her needs being
Mhm.
met on a consistent basis by staying in this relationship.
Mhm.
Right? So it's tough because if you choose to stay, you're going to be the one that is continuously frustrated, maybe angry, irritable, annoyed, disappointed, hurt, feeling rejected.
Mhm.
She's not going to experience those things because of this.
I think she might experience some of those things. I also think her partner, I think you said her name was Angela,
Not,
is also experiencing probably some of those needs not being able to be met either. And this is the
but not
challenge.
not because of Naomi's behavior is what I
Right,
mean.
right.
Naomi isn't the one
Hmm.
that's, you know, not giving her what she needs. You
Hmm.
see what I'm saying? I'm not saying that that Angela's not struggling with her physical health
Hmm.
or all those issues that she has to deal with that she does. But from the perspective of what both people are giving into the relationship, if it's one person that's constantly sacrificing, a lot of times they just contempt builds up,
Hmm.
right?
And I think it's important to think about what it would be like to continue this relationship and really what you're willing to work with here. And also, I want to add on to that. I don't think it's just that. I think it's also how innovative you can get, how creative you can get, how much you're willing to
You're
kind
gonna have
of.
VR units strapped to their head.
Well, I mean, there's two routes that I could see this going down, either the route of innovation or the route of, being able to sacrifice some of those needs and, having to accept that. So, I'm a very hopeful, you guys know I'm sickeningly optimistic. Some people hate it. Okay. I think innovation in whatever form that takes, whether that is,
Are we talking
medical.
avatars here? Is that what we're talking about?
Listen, whatever
They're
it
gonna be
is.
having their
And
brains
if
put
it
in.
doesn't exist yet, let's invent it. And I mean, in terms of either medical assistance or, her getting the answers or diagnosis or treatment that she needs, or in being creative in that erotic sensual space, the two of you. So I don't think there's an easy answer here. I know that frustration can build over time. I could see Angela maybe taking that inwards because this is a medical issue that she has no control over. It's her body. I'm sure nobody wants to sign up. Well, I'm sure there's some people that want to sign up for pain, but that's a whole other conversation. Nobody signs up for something like that to happen. So that comes with its own set of struggles. And another thing to consider too is, you had mentioned just your deal breakers before. You said you had gone out dating and, she's a person who checked off all the boxes basically. I don't know if you've heard of the 80-20 rule, how sometimes the 20% of what's bothering us will start to get to us so much that we end a relationship, but then we forget the 80% that's good, the
Yeah.
80% that's worth it. And so, that's something that you really got to think about for yourself too. What is the 80% here that we're dealing with, and what's the 20%? Or, is the scale a little bit different? If intimacy with your partner is something that's highly important to you, you're like a physical touch person, it's a non-negotiable, then that's one conversation. If this is something where you can say, I'm willing to, work through this, even if it means this need won't be fulfilled all the time, then that's another conversation.
I think my two like worries in this are if I do like end up leaving and date again, like a part of me wonders like does this mean like if I end up getting married to someone and they get into a car accident or something happens that the relationship just has to end there because there's an injury like that? Or like, and my second part was if I stay and it gets worse, is it going to get to a point where there's none at all?
These are valid concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I was asking about prognosis on her physical health, Not easy to juggle.
And I'll say too, I hear you bringing up the in sickness and in health, and I could see that this is a value for you. I could see that you see her beyond the medical issue, which is why you bring that up. You're saying if you would have married this woman and this would have happened, even a couple weeks later, it sounded like that vow, that commitment would have been there. At this point, it doesn't sound like you're married, so I know there's that difference, but I could see that this is a value to you nonetheless.
Yeah, it kind of brings up the question like what does it mean for me then if I leave someone because of an injury? And if it happens in a marriage, what would that mean?
And it can be a challenge because I also hear you're saying nobody wants to be the person that leaves somebody who's sick. Nobody wants to be the person that's left someone for something that they don't have any control
Sure.
over. So
Yeah.
there can be a feeling of guilt attached to that too, which is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I definitely do feel guilty about it. I see my parents have been together all their marriage. I'm really blessed for that. Um, and I think that's really set the foundation for me of like loyalty and how important it is to me. So yeah, that's really tough. I think it really goes against like almost my value of loyalty, but I think also you have to be loyal to yourself first, maybe.
Yes. Yes. That's what I was just thinking. I agree. Not easy. It's not an easy decision if you really love somebody. I guess, I think I would be thinking, okay, how much effort are they making? If they know that I'm frustrated, feeling neglected, are they doing something to make up for it in those times where they are feeling good? Are they saying to themselves, we haven't been intimate very often, and I know that they're frustrated, so I'm feeling a little bit better today. I'm going to be proactive here and make a move. Or are they just constantly sitting back and then you make a move and they're rejecting you, right? Because if they are making an effort, that makes a big difference. Even if it's only, maybe a few times a month, that makes a big difference in the span of a month than if she's not making an effort at all in that time.
And that involves being creative. I'm over here on the creative innovation route.
VR headsets, avatars. I don't know what's going on in Victoria's mind today. Acting it out with action figures. I don't know what's going on.
I would say in the world of women loving women, it's already creative.
Get some Star Wars characters.
Some lightsabers.
Yeah, I think my other last like kind of fear around this is what if I do end the relationship and it turns out there was a solution and the whole time there was no need to.
How, sure. I mean, but what would that solution be? That her body physically improved? I mean, what?
That could be one of them, but it could also be other means to pleasure. I think it's tough to really know what to move forward. I could see that you're scared to make a decision out of fear of making the wrong one, which tells me that you might need to just gather more data at this point, and really think to yourself, have I exhausted all of the options that I'm willing to, explore right now, and even think, okay, if there were other options, what could they be? I think that's an excellent question.
And maybe see if she is willing to get more creative. And if she is, then that's a good sign. But if she's like just constantly rejecting you and not making an effort, maybe you could say to her, look, I am frustrated with how often we're being intimate. I understand you don't feel good, but it would make a world of difference to me if you were making an effort on the times where you were feeling better, or we were making an effort in other ways.
And I think you're bringing up a great point because it's not just about the intimacy. This is part of it, but I think you're bringing in the bigger picture of how do we handle conflict? I think it would be faulty to think that intimacy is going to be the only issue the two of you will have if you do get married and spend decades together.
Yeah.
There's going to be other conflicts, and how you are handling this intimacy conflict is one example of how other conflicts might be handled.
Yeah.
So, I would think of it in that lens too.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I do think I'm kind of in the middle, just going back and forth. For anyone wondering as well, like, does the person considering dumping go back and forth? Absolutely. I'm kind of stuck between options in my head, and it's not that I want to leave someone that I love. It's just that, I want the relationship to be what I need it to be.
You're looking for, I think, more effort, right?
I think so. I think it's tough though. I see her effort in going to therapy. And I do see her initiate when she is in a good mood.
Okay, that's a good.
Yeah, it's just not very often, which is tough. And also when we try to be more creative, exploring different ways of going about it, she just says she can't because she's not in the mood because of her pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one with no easy answers here. And I could see, part of this too is you're also young and probably thinking about the future quite a bit too. So a
And
lot of
she
different
does
things
have to think
consider.
about that. Yeah, she does.
A lot of things to consider.
Because if her partner's having these kind of medical issues at 25, what's it going to be like at 50?
Right.
Right? So I think you got a lot to consider and ask yourself a lot of difficult questions and consider all the different points that we covered today.
And another big piece that we missed that I think is important to bring up is if there's other people that are dealing with similar kind of situations. We know that a huge turning point for a lot of couples that struggle with medical issues or really any major thing that affects them is being in contact or connected with others struggling with the same thing, just to get different ideas, just to get that sense of community, just to feel like you're not alone. So I don't know if there is a community out there for that, but I'm sure with the internet you can find something like that. So that's something that I would encourage is, just thinking about intimacy with someone with a medical issue, seeing if there's a community that you can connect with.
Like a support group that has extra soft chairs.
Right.
For the back pains.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. I can look into it. I know that my couples therapist deals with people that have cancer and intimacy issues. So that's kind of why we chose her. They deal with chronic pain. So yeah, there might be something like that as well.
Well, we really appreciate you being on the show with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really glad to meet Victoria and to see you again, Craig.
It's good to see you again too.
Thanks so much for joining.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be on here.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.